For more now, we bring in California Senator Alex Padilla. Senator, we so appreciate you joining us, especially on such a busy day. In your last job as California Secretary of State, you ran the state's elections. From an election security standpoint, do you have any concerns at all about this recall?
I have zero concerns about the security or the integrity of the election in California. It's thanks to the pro-voter reforms that we put in place that we can say so, giving eligible voters multiple options to safely register to vote, stay registered to vote, and actually cast their ballot, even track their ballots with notifications of when ballots are received and counted. The utmost in transparency, which leads to not just record registration and participation, but is really a model for the rest of the nation to follow.
And Democrats have been bringing out the heavy hitters in recent days for Governor Newsom's campaign, including President Biden today. So where do you think this race stands right now? Any concerns at all that Newsom could be recalled and a Republican could take over the state with a minority of voter support?
Look, despite recent polling, I know in politics you never take anything for granted. The feeling is good out there, but people can vote until 8 o'clock on Election Day, that being tomorrow, September 14th. And I think one of the reasons so many national figures have weighed in against this recall is because it is so consequential, not just for California, but for the rest of the nation. I hear from my colleagues all the time. Are voters in California going to choose the direction that California has been going in, tackling climate, increasing access to health care, supporting immigrant rights, and so much more? Or are we going to reject that agenda and, frankly, go backwards on so many issues? I think Governor Newsom is not just supposed to win, but win big and have a significant mandate going in, not just into next year, but into a next term. And that should bode well for Democrats in the midterms.
And still on the topic of voting, Senator Manchin has signaled that he will not support a change of Senate rules to pass a voting rights bill. He is saying the filibuster is permanent. Do you agree, or do you think there needs to be some sort of one-time agreement in order to get voting rights over the finish line?
Look, I think there's a couple things happening here. Number one, there has to be a recognition of how hypocritical our Republican colleagues have been. They say we shouldn't change election law unless it's done on a bipartisan basis. Yet we've seen our fundamental right to vote attacked and undermined in state after state across the country on strictly a partisan basis. So I think that the clock is ticking for my friend Senator Manchin to realize that our democracy is too important. If Republicans in the Senate won't go along and do the right thing and protect our right to vote, then we'll have to reform the filibuster somehow to allow these voter protections proposals to move forward, because the midterm elections are going to be upon us before we know it.
Of course, you're on the Budget Committee, so let's talk infrastructure. The Democrats can't seem to agree on the budget reconciliation and the smaller bipartisan infrastructure deal passed by the Senate last month. Some say that both efforts could tank altogether. How concerned are you about that possibility?
Look, I'm actually pretty optimistic that it's all going to get done at the end of the day. Let's recall how just a couple of months ago, the bipartisan deal seemed dead, then alive again, then dead, then alive again, and ultimately was approved with significant support. I think the same may happen with the budget reconciliation measure. There's going to be some road bumps as we're trying to finalize not just the final details, but the final price tag, if you will. But I'm optimistic that it'll get done because the need is certainly clear. Not just investing in infrastructure for infrastructure's sake, healthcare, education, childcare is so important. But let's take climate change. A hurricane in Louisiana, flooding in New York, New Jersey, and other areas, wildfires in the West. My God, the impact of climate change is happening now, and we need to act bold. We need to act now.
What do the Democrats need to do in order to get the consensus they need on infrastructure, particularly with Senator Manchin now calling for this strategic pause?
Yeah, I think the fact that the August recess is coming to a close and we'll all be physically together in the Capitol again starting this week will allow for those conversations to wrap up these negotiations in the next couple of weeks. And not just for Senator Manchin, not just for myself, but for others, let's remember that while the price tag is certainly one important conversation, how we pay for it is another. And there's a roadmap to make significant investments in our nation's infrastructure in a fiscally responsible way, in a way that's frankly fair to working families. Let's make sure that multinational corporations are paying their fair share in tax revenue. Let's make sure that the wealthiest families in America are paying their fair share in taxes. And the part of that's going to be undoing some of the tax giveaways that the Trump administration did that corporations and wealthy families didn't even ask for.
And President Biden is the first president to ever visit the National Interagency Fire Center. He's been commenting on this historic fire season in California. Do you see any significant changes coming out of this visit on that front?
Yeah, I mean, I want to thank the administration for having been so responsive and helping California through emergency resources and response, including but not limited to firefighters, technology, and that sort of thing. But I think the president's visit is here to underscore the reality of not just wildfires, but the cause of fires. It is due to climate. That's why we have sustained drought. That's why we have hotter and hotter summers, and it underscores the urgency with which we need to act, not just to respond to fires when they happen, but invest in infrastructure to try to prevent and mitigate future disasters.
Senator Alex Padilla, once again, appreciate your time and coming on the show.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.